Sometimes formulas are difficult to figure out what's going on. If you name a cell or a group of cells, sometimes that will make formulas easier to read and provide better worksheet documentation. In this worksheet called Use Range Names, we're about to write a formula in cell I2. Everybody's going to get a 2.91% increase, that's in cell K1, based on the salaries that we see in column G. Now, a standard way to write this, one of many different ways to write this formula, could be equal G2 times K1. What if K1 had a name? Would this be easier to read? Well, it might be. Nothing too terribly complex about this formula. That could be the complete formula right there. But let's reconsider it. Let's give this cell a name. We can give a cell a name in one of two ways. The standard way, slightly longer, but not that long. The cell selected. On the Formulas tab in the ribbon, define name, type it in right here, and click OK. Slightly faster, the cell selected, go to the left side of the formula bar, way up to the left, what's called the name box. Click in there, type in the name. The name cannot begin with a number, cannot contain spaces, and it cannot look like a cell address. Percent increase. I'll abbreviate the PCT, capital I, that way. I can use it in the formula. If it's a formula I'm starting from scratch, I'll just, at this point, click on the cell to the right. Or if I forgot, I wouldn't have it under these circumstances, but when you're fishing around for a range name sometimes, or maybe that cell is off in the distance somewhere, press the function key F3. That brings up existing range names, double click, gets popped into place there, plus G2. I'll press Control Enter. Because that name is given to the cell, we don't have to worry about an absolute address. A range name is an absolute address. I'll double click the lower right-hand corner. Every one of these cells contains a reference to that. Now, slight downside is I wrote the formula. Someone else approaches this and sees this and says, in effect, well, what does percent increase refer to? If you don't know, go to the name box, the far left side, click in it. There's an arrow on the right side. Percent increase, what does that mean? Click it, Excel jumps to that cell. It's cell K1. We see it here. We can also name multiple cells. Let's highlight these cells right here. First half sales. Over to the name box. This time I'll use underscore after first, half, another underscore, sales. Enter. At a later time, if I want to add up those cells there, Alt equals a quick way to do an auto sum. And this time, press the function key F3 or type in the name, either way. There it is. First half sales, double click, enter. And I can use that at any time. I could do an average there instead, put average out there instead of sum, or median, or other functions as needed. So it's easy to set these up. At different times, you might say, well, how many range names do I have? Could I get a list somehow? You can go to the Name Manager. It's on the Formulas tab. Here's a list of our range names. We could delete them if we need to here. The more you have, the more likely you are want to be able to, from time to time, do is to actually print these or show them on the worksheet. We can go to Use in Formula, Paste Names, Paste List. There's a list of them. As you do this too, make sure you're doing it in an open area. It will take 2 columns and, of course, depending upon the entry, any number of different rows. You can also assign range names based on the fact that words are at the top of the list or on any side of a list. So if we select the data here starting in column A, I'm dragging across the column letters here, we can go to the choice on the Formulas tab, Create from Selection. In this case, create names from values in the top row, not the left column, top row. There could be situations where you might use 2 of these. In this case, just 1. Click OK. If at some point we want to know the average of the new salaries here, equal average, left parenthesis. Now, I'm going to press the function key F3 to bring up those names. But remember, I said earlier, you can't have a space in a range name. So new salary is about to appear here in our list as I press the function key F3. But we see that it's got an underscore in it. Excel put that in automatically in place of the space. You can double click that in there and enter. And that's an answer. The downside for some could be, and I encountered this a few years ago with a worksheet that had well over 100 range names in it. And every time I encountered a formula, it seems like there was a different one. So tracking these down at different times can be a little tricky. If I go back over here to where I created that list and do it one more time very quickly here, use in formula, paste names, paste list. It's a bigger list now since we have some new ones. So from time to time, take stock of the ones you have, but I think you can see the potential value here. It makes certain formulas easier to read and to figure out and provides better worksheet documentation.